Yo, 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 boys and girls, what's shaking? It's your man, it's your home slice, it's your ham sandwich, it is Jerry, and I am here to talk to you about a movie I saw actually a while ago now, back in like mid-September, early October. Like I said, October, September are the busy months, so I caught this movie and I didn't have a chance. I just sort of lost it in the shuffle of recording, but I'm here now, so here we go. I recently saw a film called Horns that some of you may have heard of. It's based on Joe Hill's book, and Joe Hill, as some of you might know, is Stephen King's son. And this is a movie starring Daniel Radcliffe, breaking that mold of Harry Potter. It's also directed by a guy I very much admire these days, named Alexander Aja, who did such things as the remake of The Hills Have Eyes, which I think is great, Piranha 3D, which I have yet to see because I'm a bad person. He produced and co-wrote the remake of Maniac last year, which I really love, among other, various films. And I'm a big fan of this guy's work, so I was very excited to check this out. And this is a quirky movie. I didn't really quite know what it was about. I saw the trailer maybe once, and that got me really excited. And going in, I didn't really know a lot of the particulars of the story, other than it was about this young man whose fiancée was murdered, and obviously he's blamed for it, and it's sort of a question as to whether he did it or not. And somewhere along the way, he starts to sprout horns, and then people start behaving very strangely. And so this movie, I think, is very cool. I will say that it is an uneven movie. However, I think that when it's good, it is really good. And there are a lot of great performances in it. There are a lot of people in this movie that you'll recognize. So Daniel Radcliffe is obviously in this movie. He's the protagonist. And then you also have Juno Temple, who plays his fiancée, the sort of figure at the center of a lot of the trouble and the turmoil in this story. And you have his brother, played by Joe Anderson, who's an actor I love. He's great in The Crazies, he's great in The Grey. He's great pretty much every time I've seen him pop up. I'm really happy to see him getting more work. Max Minghella as one of his childhood friends, and that's sort of a thing that figures heavily into this movie as well. James Remar is his father, Kathleen Quinlan is his mom. You also have David Morse in it. You have Heather Graham in a small part, which I thought was kind of cool because it's not super in your face, like, oh, Heather Graham is here. And it's not a huge character, but she does get to have a lot of fun, and I was happy to see her in a movie again. Especially just in a supporting role like this, because, I get the sense that a lot of people might have turned something like that down. But I'm glad she's here. And I'm also happy to see Kelly Garner again. I've always had a bit of a celebrity crush on Kelly Garner, and I'm happy to see her in this movie. I think she's really good, too. So there are a lot of good and interesting performances, and I have to imagine that this was a fun movie to act in, because part of the deal with the Horns is they bring out the sort of hidden sides of people, the secrets, because there's a lot about secrets and about who's hiding what in this movie and why. So everybody gets to play their regular daily life version of their character, and then they also get to play the sort of strange and twisted version, saying all the things you would never dream of saying to somebody. And that's part of the fun of this movie. It's a very quirky film, it's very strange, and while, not every moment is pitch perfect, there are a lot of good moments, and Daniel Radcliffe does a good job of carrying most of the film. There's some really beautiful cinematography in here, especially in the flashbacks and whatnot, how things are captured. And what I thought was cool was you have this sort of grinning, twisted mystery in the present day, but you also have these flashbacks that kind of harken back to things like Stand By Me or The Goonies in a way, where it's like, your youth and your friends growing up and the things you would do together, the trouble you would get in. And there are interludes, there are flashback sequences that harken back to those kinds of movies. And that was just sort of a nice thing, it made me feel warm watching those. There's a lot of emotion here in various forms, and there's a lot of, really mean little set pieces as well. It's a very interesting little dark fantasy in a lot of ways. They use their effects well, there's a mix of practical effects work and CG work, and they do seem to mix them well. And like I said, it is something of an uneven movie, I will give it that. There are certain pace issues, certain scenes that don't play as well as others do, and there are certain times where you sort of feel like they could have used a better take here and there. And I've generally heard tell that it doesn't quite get into all the implications that the book does. But I do think it is successful, because when it's good, I think it's really good. When, Alex Aja gets a chance to jump off the leash and really do his thing, it's great. There's one particularly crazy drug trip sequence that's awesome. So this movie does go a lot of places, and it does commit to itself, especially when things get sort of out of hand and whatnot. And as a mystery, I mean, I've heard some people say that they found it vaguely predictable, and I can see that. But just the same, I do think it works. I do think, again, I haven't read the book, so I'm probably not biased in that way. But I do like what's going on here, and I mean, it's interesting to see what ALYSSA'S does with a story that requires a little more restraint for a lot of it. And it makes those moments where he can jump off the leash that much more fun and enjoyable. I also really appreciate the sort of small town vibe in this movie. You know, it takes place in sort of a small coastal town, you know, with a lot of greenery and forest. And I really do appreciate just that aesthetic, that environment. You know, it does feel very small town. And there are also some really cool music choices in here because, you know, part of the relationship between the Daniel Radcliffe character and the Juno Temple character is their love of music and whatnot. And there are a lot of great little heartfelt moments in here. It's not always quite as great as you get the sense that it could have been, but there is some really good stuff at work here. And it is a really cool little dark, twisted fantasy fairy tale thing. So, I'm generally feeling positive about this movie. I like all the people involved. I like the performances for the most part. I thought the story and the humor was really cool. So, yeah, even if it's a bit uneven, it's still a good time, and I still quite enjoyed myself. You know, maybe check it out when it hits DVD, since it's probably not in the theater anymore. But there is some really beautiful stuff hidden in this movie, and there is some very warm and also some very sort of darkly funny stuff hidden in this movie. So it's a bit scrappy, but I liked it. So yeah, that's Horns. That was a movie I was actually quite excited for recently. So I'm interested to see how it'll play on a second go around. So if you've seen it, what did you think? If you want to share some thoughts, hit up the comment section, like and subscribe and all that jazz. Be kind to your compatriots, writing on the wall there. And what's your favorite recent Daniel Radcliffe movie, and what would you like to see him do next? Because, you know, it's got to be hard, you know, breaking out of the Harry Potter mold after 8 films, and I think he's doing a decent job of that. So, yeah, what do you think? That's it for now. Horns is the film. ALYSSA'S. Till next time, I am Jerry. Cheers.